Well, I guess you always have two hats, sort of keeping an eye out on the creative side and where that's going, and then also having to be involved in the business.
In the business side of it, yeah. I guess it's kind of an internal and an external business. I mean, there's the business inside the production of ensuring that you're taking those resources and using them in the best way, in the way that's going to have you end up with the best product that you can. And then there's the kind of, external business of how is this product going to fit in a wider marketplace. And I think, for the first few projects that I did, that sort of external, those kind of external forces were not as important because I did have the support of Telefilm Canada and Manitoba Film and Sound and the National Screen Institute and other organizations that exist to really nurture and develop producers. But when it comes to a certain point where you have to start thinking in kind of a global context about the projects that you're developing and producing. And, so I don't know whether it detracts from the creativity of a project. I think, in some ways it enforces some more creativity. And, after all, in the film or television business, you're not making a product that's supposed to be seen by a handful of people. You do have the urge to have this thing be seen by as many people as possible. And so, and to, if it's not as many people as possible, but at least be satisfying to maybe an underserved portion of the population that can really take it as its own. So, yeah, there is a little bit of a split between creative and business, but hopefully, again, you want to find a happy medium and to see where the advantages are when things change too. Because, sometimes changes can mean opportunities as well.
So how do you usually find your projects? Are you talking to writers and come up with something? Other producers come to you? Do people just pitch you? Do you have a way you like to work, or is it all different?
It's all different. It all depends upon the project. As I mentioned before, I really like working with writer-directors, so I'm always approachable on those kinds of projects. And I usually, depending on, where their skill level is, make sure that they stay as a producer alongside me in that process as well. Other projects that we've done are co-productions with other companies that have developed it or partly developed it, and then we work together. In the case of the Stone Angel, Kari had a script that was almost fully developed, so we just worked together in the last stages. I think more and more we're starting to look at developing projects also that aren't necessarily that we're looking to originate as well, whether it be options of literary works or, some kind of original idea. So I think that's going to be in our future a little more than it has been. The partnerships will always happen. That's one of the things that we've actually really enjoyed, are a lot of our co-productions with other Canadian producers and with producers from abroad and from the US. So it comes from everywhere. Even sometimes from the broadcasters or the distributors. So.
Financing, especially a feature film, seems to be such a huge, long process. And there's always so many hoops to go through. Do you find like, how do you get through all that time and often going back and refinancing things or having to constantly find that last little bit of the budget, as most producers talk about? You know, how do you keep yourself optimistic and keep going and knowing you'll find a way?
That's actually kind of a good question. It took us 2 years to finance the Stone Angel, and you know, it is. It's like, you know, building a little house of cards and then having maybe one card drawn away from you, and then having to build it all back up again. But I guess there's one thing that I have learned, you know, in the last 4 years since I made my first feature, is there are many, many different kinds of cards, you know, and there are so many different financing models out there in the world. And it's really about starting to learn what those are, and how much they're going to cost you in various ways, so that one can only remain optimistic, because there's probably going to be some kind of new invention around the corner, even if you feel like you've exhausted everything.
So that's where you get to be creative in business.
Yeah, you get to be creative in business, and you know, start to build on relationships with people that you know you've worked with in the past and so on, so that at least there's an immediate trust level there, and when that's there, you can think creatively about ways of financing.
What would be your advice if a feature film producer came to you before they were about to do their first film, go into production on it? Anything in particular you would say to them?
Expect the unexpected. You know, it's it should be able to be a well-planned process, but I guess such is the nature of something that's as complex as making a film. Okay, that's sort of a silly thing to say. It's not brain surgery, right? It's not rocket science. It's maybe not as complex as sending up the Discovery into space or something like that. But still, I think because it's so rooted in personalities and you know, a number of kind of unknown variables, everything from weather to equipment failure to actor meltdown to financing meltdown to whatever. I guess it's a good idea to have a plan B and a plan C. In almost every situation, and to see where the advantages are when things change too, because you know sometimes changes can mean opportunities as well.